Hello, hello team, how are you? I'm getting around to these questions again. Thank you so much for writing to me, and please carry on doing so. I will get round to you all eventually, for sure. And right now I'm answering a lovely lady called Lucy. And your question was, did you start as a classical musician and how did you get into improvisation? I wish I could improvise as good as you. I hate when people hate me because I'm bad at improvisation and think that I'm a bad musician because I'm terrible at it. Do you have any improvisation tips? Oh, hun, that's tough. Yeah, I actually know where you're coming from. When you've got a classical background and then someone takes the music away from you, it does feel quite naked, doesn't it? I didn't start improvising until quite late, and I felt the same as you. I felt like it was really lacking in my musical education, and I felt like I was less of a musician because of it. So I wouldn't have started improvising until I was maybe 16 or so. But sort of enjoyed it once I got going. There is a real vulnerability that you have to get over. I would say, first off, really train your ear up and your understanding of scales. Those are the two keys for me to, they were the two stepping stones to getting into improvisation. So make sure you know all your 12 keys inside out. There's a book called Patterns for Jazz that I really liked because it got you playing all of your scales, arpeggios, all of the modes. It got you playing, starting on different degrees of the scale, and that helped train the ear up at the same time. On top of that, I used to just play loads and loads of tunes. Play loads of tunes. If you can, play them in all 12 keys. Let's say you try and map the knife, you work it out by ear, and then you try and play it in all 12 keys. That's training your ear up every single time. If you haven't already watched my videos on improvisation and ear training, there's a whole series on it. So I'll link to the playlist above my head now. And you should check out that series because that will really help you get started as well. But yes, I was definitely in the same boat as you, and I got there eventually. But in answer to your question, I did start as a classical musician, and I felt exactly the same as you. So jump on board the improvisation wagon. It will give you a lot more confidence as a player. Who do I have next? Ohad. I hope I pronounced that right. Hey Chez, amazing video, thanks. I have a question. How do you keep the embouchure stable? That's a tricky one. So I guess that's to do with these kind of wobbles that you can get in your sound, like learning to control those. Two things, strength of embouchure and strength of diaphragm as well. I've done a video called my anti-wobble exercise, and that's about building your tone. In general, any warm-up exercises that I've done, including vibrato, are going to really help to control that sound and get that flat line that you're after, that nice fat sound. If you can work up to a slightly harder reed, the softer the reed, the more give it's got. So why, I think I might have mentioned this in a couple of videos before, why I went up to like strength 4 originally, and then I went back down again, and now I'm on kind of a strength 3, or like, let's say Rico Jazz Select, I use a 3S, so 3 soft. They're really quite soft reeds. I feel like I've got that strength now, so I don't need a reed to help me out cover it up. So generally, the thicker the reed, the less it's going to have that movement and give. It's going to, and that will instinctively help you develop that embouchure as well. So a couple of tips there. Have a look at, if you search for my warm-up videos, search through some of those and have a go at some of those, and that will help you. I would do that every time you practice, do a warm-up. And long tones, as you would have heard me talk about before. And the other one is maybe thinking about your setup and if you would want a stronger reed to train up those embouchure muscles for you. Next, Rocket. I love this guy. He comments on loads of stuff. Hi, Rocket. Hi, dude. You could raffle off lipstick coated reed. I'm sure you could put that on a giveaway. Nice. I have been thinking about doing a giveaway actually. I've got a few freebies now. What's put me off is that a lot of you seem to be sort of American and Far East and all over the world, Australians. And I'm thinking it may end up being more hassle than it's worth. But it is in the pipeline. I might do a giveaway soon, so watch this space and might do a giveaway. Let's see. Let's see what else. We have someone whose name I can't pronounce because I think it's written in Arabic. Excuse me if it's not in Arabic and I'm being ignorant. Apologies to you if I am. I'll do a screenshot of who it is on the page. Oh, here we go. He's translated Raphael. Hey Raphael, looking for a different kind of sound than I'm presently producing on the sax. I describe it as a scratchier, but without growling the whole time. How would I change it? Embouchure, reed, mouthpiece, ligature, saxophone. Would I be able to take a lesson on this kind of topic of sound? Yeah, so it's difficult for me to advise without kind of hearing what your tone is like at the moment. So I think I've probably mentioned this in a video before. I do offer lessons over Skype. So if you fancied one of those, there's details of that in the description box on every single video. Or you can just drop me an email. I'm on sax@chestaylor.london, and we could look at putting a lesson together for you. But without growling, yeah, I'd need to know what your setup is currently, what strength reed you're using, what brand of reed you're using, brand of saxophone, all of this information, stations. So that one is a little too broad for me to answer in one video. I think it's probably a good idea for us to get together and have a one-on-one, tete-a-tete. So, drop me a line. Who we got next? Roger the Dodger. Any advice specifically for soprano aficionados out there? Or are we relegated back to the crawl space like freaks we are? I like you. Yes, well, you will have heard me play the soprano a tiny bit. And actually, I did my performance diploma. I did my licenciate on soprano as well. It's a tough instrument. The big game changer for me with soprano was definitely getting the right mouthpiece. So it depends what kind of tone you're after, but I found that kind of slightly nasally, snake charmery, Kenny G-E tone a bit too shrill for me. When I got the Selma Soloist C mouthpiece, and also I worked up to a really hard reed, so I tend to play on a 4 on the soprano still. Whereas most of my other sets have gone back a step. With the soprano, I keep it on a really, really thick reed. And for me, the combination of that mouthpiece, I've also got a Vandren Optimum ligature, really excellent ligature. I would recommend that. In fact, I might do a review on that soon so you guys can see what I'm talking about. That and a really hard reed. That's literally just a Vandren traditional 4, like thick, hard as nails. For me, that gives it that sort of flutier sound that I want, and also really helps with the intonation. Oh God, tuning on the soprano is a nightmare. And I've also got a Selma Series 2 soprano, and the Selma Series 2 was sort of supposed to be renowned for being easier to control for tuning. So I hope that was helpful. Think about your setup is my main advice to you, Mr. Roger. And also consider, getting an alto or a tenor. Anyway, moving on. Pelepa. Sorry, can't pronounce your name. I also remember the mini disc. The mini disc, as well as the USB music player. I don't feel that old. You surely can't be older than that. It's mean of me to ask, but you brought it up. Oh, you want to know how old I am? Hell no, I'm not telling you that. A lady never reveals that. Absolutely not. I'm going to move on immediately. Tiago. Oh, what an awesome name. Tiago. I like that. Might call my child Tiago when I eventually have a child one day. Hey, Chez. I'm trying to figure out where this dope jazz riff comes from. Can you help me? Ooh, a request. Okay, I will click on that link and check it out. If I particularly like it, it may well come up in a video soon. I'm due to do another improvisation video. It's been too long. So Tiago, if I like it, I will probably incorporate it into a improvisation video for you. If you are desperate for that, or anyone, if you're desperate for a particular transcription, I have opened up a transcription service now. Again, details are in the description box on every video. So if there's a particular tune that you are absolutely desperately wanting and you can't wait for me to put it up on the channel, then drop me an email and I will quote for it. Let's have a look at who's next. Eclipse. I just wanted to ask your opinion on which saxophone to get. I was looking at Trevor James horn. I do like the Trevor James. Consalm or the Consalma Premiere. Also confused when they say horn 88, it has a gun riffled neck. I am intermediate player. I've been on the Yamaha, borrowed one from school for the entire summer. I was also looking to get into metal mouthpiece. Any suggestions? I'm just skimming through this. I'll put it on the page as well. Okay, I see. Oh, and last question, what's your favourite Beatles song? Oh, interesting. My favourite Beatles song? I think my favourite Beatles song is Norwegian Wood, because my mother used to sing it to me when I was a baby. It's a beautiful little song. She sang it terribly. The musician gene comes from my dad's side of the family. Sorry, Mum. Love you. Anyway, so the Trevor James horn as an intermediate, I think is entirely fabulous. I love that horn. I think it's great. When they're talking about the gun riffled neck, now I'm going to show my ignorance here. I'm not entirely sure what that means. I would expect it's to do with the shape of it. If anyone knows what that means, please could you comment on this video? I'd love to know. Any sax aficionados out there that know what a gun riffled neck is. I mean, it sounds awesome. Sounds like it must be a good thing, no? It sounds very Bond. So I would say out of those two, and the Consalma, so as far as I'm aware, is generally a vintage brand, and vintage saxophones, much like vintage cars, take a lot of TLC. So I would say if I was choosing between those two, that the Trevor James is going to be more reliable for you and set you on a good stead to last for quite a long time. In terms of the metal mouthpieces, so it depends if you're, I don't know if it says here whether you're a tenor or an alto player. You're talking about the Barry Gold mouthpiece. I mean, the Barry mouthpieces are amazing. If you have the budget for Barry, they are awesome mouthpieces. I get a thumbs up from Chez. However, I'm not a huge fan of metal mouthpieces on alto. I find it takes the tone up a little bit too harsh for me. It makes it a little bit shrill. I do occasionally use one, but generally it'll just be because I can't hear myself and they're louder. So it'll be on like a DJ gig where the sound is terrible or something and my microphone's not cutting the mustard, or perhaps a big band, which I very rarely do anymore, but if I can't hear myself properly, I'll put that on. So yeah, depends whether you have a tenor or an alto. If you've not already watched my video on my top 5 mouthpieces, that will pop in above my head now. And that will give you some advice on that. Also, on buying a saxophone, I've got a couple of videos out from my lovely session at sax.co.uk, and I tried out a few saxes there. So if you haven't already watched those videos, I will put a link to them in the description box as well. So check those guys out, and you'll hear my opinion on a few intermediate saxes there. So I am serious about this subscribing thing. Hit that button. Do it, or I'll drop the sax. I will, I'll do it.